Hey there, everybody. Thet here on the camera with a thing, doing something a little different. Today we're going to talk about Iratus, but we're actually not going to play Iratus. Weird, I know, but there's some big updates coming to Iratus in the future, and I do like this game. I actually like it a lot. So I'd love to go ahead and actually take a look at these dev notes that we have coming up here. They actually came in two parts. First part, as it says, released January 22nd. The last one was released, I believe it's 2 days ago. So it's a relatively new group of updates. Update information, if you will. Let's go ahead and take a quick look, because there's going to be some huge changes to the game coming up. So if you watch the playthrough that I've been doing, well, some of that stuff's not going to apply anymore. Although, from what I've seen, a lot of it is still going to, but when it comes to the economy of the game, which I think is a big deal, that's going to see some changes. So let's take a look. Devblog 2020, the nearest future. Hello, Necromancers. Iratus Lord of the Dead has been early accessed on Steam for over half a year. During this time, we received huge amounts of feedback. In this devblog, we'll start sharing our near-term plans and upcoming features. Now, we said we're planning on releasing the full version in the second quarter of 2020. Okay, the full version's coming out, so the patch should be coming before then. Anyone will be able to join the beta branch on Steam with the newest version of the game. Beta testing will begin in February. Hey! The exact date will be announced later. Join the Discord here to find out when. Well then, it's coming up soon. I want to jump in there. Iratus and Minion Experience. Here comes some of the actual changes coming down the line. Gaining experience for Iratus and his minions will be much more flexible and intuitive. How much experience is gained will depend on the current level of Iratus and his minions, and even the level of the minion from the grave will correlate with the level of the current squad. So it sounds like some of your rewards that you get from going down the map will scale as you move on, which I like the idea of. As it says, as you progress, you will gain more experience from victories and find more powerful artifacts and minion items in coffins, chests, and sacrificial altars. From the sounds of it, that means that they might be going purposely for a tall play style instead of a wide play style. For those of you who don't know what that means, a tall play style is, think of it in terms of Civilization. When you're playing a tall game of Civilization, you usually have one big city, and that's what you focus all of your attention toward, is that big city. Yeah, you'll have a couple of smaller ones here and there, but really, you're probably going to be piling your wonders, your if you have to, your defenses, all of your resources will be funneled toward making that city bigger and better, and hoping to get, returns on those investments. A wide play style, on the other hand, has you casting a wide net. You'll put out many cities as much as possible. Usually you'll try to average them so that they're around the same level each, and then you'll continue expanding. So those are two of the more common play styles, and it sounds like with these changes, they want to focus more on that tall play style of grabbing your own team, latching onto them, and making sure that they're your A team, and then everyone else is kind of there in a comparison. Backups, if you will. Minion upgrading. So this will tell us a little bit more about that. The most significant feature is a much more convenient system for upgrading minion characteristics. Many players don't like the current part system. I actually do like it, or I should say I don't hate it. I already think it's kind of unique that you have parts, you can combine them together, and they can give upgrades. However, like the first point says, random drop. The player is forced to roll the necessary bonuses. Some of the randomness is certainly needed, but we want to give you the opportunity to more comfortably customize your minions without the RNG influence. So, yeah, I see where they're coming from there. The fact that it's almost completely random of what you're going to get from particular upgrades, I can see that as being a bit annoying. Yeah, totally. The player or part creation requires a lot of routine actions and a lot of clicks. Yes, I don't care too much. I can understand some people complaining about that. Having a single button, because this is how most people use the parts anyway, to just start combining and make them legendaries would be definitely useful. Maybe just a combine to highest tier button could definitely speed that up. Most popular strategy was accumulate low rarity parts until the moment you can make a legendary. Yeah, I mean, that makes the most sense. That's where you get the most bang for your buck out of them. The lower ones are practically useless in comparison. It definitely makes sense to do something about that system that doesn't really offer any alternative playstyles to it. In our opinion, it will be much more pleasant for players to immediately receive any obvious increases to minion characteristics without the need to store resources. Okay, that's an interesting comment because I think the Iratus is right now kind of heavily resource-based. As long as you consider minions resources. Because remember, you need minions to build, you need minions to stock those buildings, you need minions... you need minion parts, which again go into the minions, which means you need minion parts in order to build the minions, in order to build the buildings, in order to put people in the buildings. So, you know, there's a lot of economy in this game. So wanting to pare down that economy sounds like it's, or at least simplify it a little bit, maybe what they're going for here. We decided to give players a simple tool for configuring minion characteristics. As in the current version, minions will receive a different amount of experience for a victory, regardless of their actions in the battle. Okay, so, yeah, you get different experience numbers. Okay, I understand that. The maximum level of minions will not be limited. That's a big difference. Right now, the limit is 7. And the higher the level, the more experience points will be required to get to the next one. A soft cap rather than a hard cap. Okay, so that's closer to what most games, I would say, do. I mean, some of them have high caps of like 99 or something like that as far as hard caps go. But for the most part, they rely on that recursive leveling up to make you stronger, and the more effort you put into it, the stronger you get. Yeah, that makes sense. I get that. Each time a minion levels up, the minions will receive stat points. For stat points, the player will be able to upgrade the available parameters of a minion of his choice. Okay, so taking a look at this picture here, 22 stat points, you put them into different areas. They have different costs, I'm guessing. I'm not sure what they're basing the cost off of. Okay, this is the bonus. So you get 5 health, for example, at the cost of 1 point. I'm guessing the point requirements get higher the more you pump it into a particular stat. That would be my guess. However, I'm not sure what I think about this system right now. I do kind of like the... one thing I do like about the RNG system that they have now is that it does force all your minions to be at least a little bit unique from each other. Because the chances that you're going to get the exact stats on 2 minions is extremely low, but it might happen. And this just kind of lets you build a bunch of minions with the exact same stats, which I know there are artifacts or items that can go ahead and randomize this a little bit, but I'm not 100% on board with this. We'll just have to see how it's balanced and all that good stuff. I mean, choice, I can't argue against choice, really, because it just gives you the choice to do that. Before, you really had no choice, and now you do, so... It's probably going to be good, as long as they balance it well. The current skill upgrade system will stay. For every 3 levels, minion receives a skill point, and they'll change the upgrade bonuses for balance sake, which definitely makes sense. Although the ones they have now, it makes sense to have something like that still there. I don't know if they're going to nerf them or maybe make them stronger because you get them far more rarely. But yeah, that system, I do like this system where you get to change a skill into 1 or 2 skills to make them stronger. And right now, a lot of them, without that actual system up above of being able to assign extra stat upgrades, are kind of really small. Like, I mean, what is that, 2 dread for the, I believe this is a Dampier. None of these are that impressive. None of these are going to be game-changing in any way. Really, the only game-changing thing here is the actual changes to the abilities, at least for almost all of the upgrades that I've seen, with the possible exception of blocks and wards, which can really be a little game-changing at times. And maybe if you stack all of the ones of a certain skill, like you stack all the evasion ones. But if you did that, you're kind of ignoring the actual changes to the skills, which... yeah, you're sacrificing one for the other. I get where that can be a good branching of strategy, but right now, almost always, the actual effect on the skill means more than the actual stat that you're getting from it when you do the upgrade. In most cases. So having a system where that is less important, the stats are less important for the upgrades, allows you a little bit more variety in how to build them, I suppose. But I think they'll have to balance the actual skills themselves just to make sure that each variety of a skill has a certain advantage that would make you want to take it over the other one. Anyway, moving on. Parts with quality higher than common will no longer give random bonuses, but stat points, which players will be able to custom configure in the user-friendly interface as shown above, I'm assuming. We will remove the random and economically unprofitable ability to increase the rarity of parts in alchemy. Now you can gain them after the battle as a reward for an event or on the sacrificial altar. I don't know what I think about this. I mean, I like the idea that you can actually save them up and invest those into something that really sounds like it's going to run the risk of making common parts literally useless other than to build new minions. And I don't like that. I don't like the idea that it sounds like it might risk cluttering your inventory with a bunch of useless items. So I hope they have found something that you can do with those that's more useful. Even if you could just maybe combine them not into higher level parts, but maybe into higher level items, like a higher level plate to increase the armor, or I should say reduce the damage of your characters, of your minions. Instead of combining 2 for a common version, maybe you can combine 4 or 8 for an uncommon or a rare or a legendary, something like that. There's some way to still use those common parts other than just making cannon fodder, which, yeah, that's definitely something you could use them for, but it's not the most creative or interesting use of those common parts that you are definitely going to be running into, because they're common. It's in the name. You're going to have a lot of them, presumably. So in the new version, minion upgrades will be more convenient and smooth. You can customize the characteristics of minions according to your chosen strategy and playstyle. Cool. Do like choice. Do like that idea. Still not 100% on board with the fact that they're completely taking away like 90% of the RNG from that system. I hope they find another way to inject it in there. But again, choice ain't bad. So how can I complain too much about choice? Alchemy apparently is going to get some changes too. Distillation, instead of improving the rarity of the parts, will provide you the ability to restore vigor of all minions for parts and or minion items. Often an opportunity to refresh a squad after a hard battle can make a difference. Let me read the rest of this one before I react to that. In calcination, the amount of restored mana will no longer depend on the rarity of the parts used, and needless minion items can be converted here too. All types of alchemy will be available from the start. Fewer bounds, more freedom. Cool. I mean, not complaining. Thanks for reading. Stay tuned. We'll look at the second that blog here in a minute. But I don't think I like the fact that you can restore vigor like that. I don't like that. No. I think it's way too much of a buff to the player to be able to do that, unless you're going to make these items extremely rare, which again, why would you make common items rare unless you're going to make it so that they can't be used to restore vigor? But that wouldn't make sense either. I don't think I like this decision. Because, again, it's rewarding a tall playstyle. Why have more than one team, maybe 2 teams, so you can have one for an emergency backup, when there's no point in having 4 teams at this point? Because now you can just have 2, swap them out as needed. If for some reason both teams get really low health, throw away some parts, restore all their health, and just keep going with these 2 teams. Yeah, I feel like we're veering very hard into a tall playstyle instead of any kind of wide one, which wide styles offer more variety. Yeah, I don't think this is the way I would want that to go. I would prefer them still have a way of using parts to do something else. I still like the idea of having them provide upgrades. Maybe like pare down the randomness of what upgrades can be provided, instead of just, any item can provide any kind of upgrade. Maybe make it so that armor can only provide armor and block, or make it so that rags can only provide resistance and wards, something like that, where they provide something more than just health regen. I think that's just not enough. But we'll probably I'll probably know how I feel about it a little bit more once it's actually in the game. Again, the balancing of it could make a big difference. I mean, maybe it could be that the legendary parts only restore like 25% health to your minions, and that would be you know, then I might be blowing things out of proportion as far as my dislike of the idea. But I don't know. It sounds like that could be going way in the direction of making the game easier, which is ironic because my brain hates the people who make the games harder for the sake of making games harder. But this is giving the player, I think, too many ways to use the economy outside of how it's already being used, which I think is, for the most part, kind of tight. Again, parts could be made a little bit better, and I think some of the changes they're making with that are interesting, but I'm not sure I'm on board with them yet. Let's take a look at the second part of the dev blog here. Just move on up. Here's part 2. This was posted on the 30th of January, so, you know, a couple days ago, at least as the posting of this video. Let's see here. Minion items. This looks great. I like this. After the previous dev blog, we got a lot of questions about balancing the unpredictability of the game, which I think is personally kind of a positive. Some of the quests are a little boring, but we won't go there right now. We answer you. We consider it very important to provide players a comfortable tool for customizing your minions. However, we don't want to completely remove the element of randomness from the game, which is good. It wouldn't be a roguelike without some kind of randomness, and yes, there's definitely roguelike elements in this game. The replayability and variability of the walkthroughs are one of the core points of the game, and we will continue to work to improve these elements of the gameplay. Consequently, we've added more than 50 new minion items, significantly affecting the possibilities of a game session. I love this. We want each item to influence a specific run, and the need to choose items depending on the situation encourages players to make wise and considered decisions. The good that could come from this update might actually, from this portion of the update, adding a bunch of minion items, that just taking a look at the 3 samples here, add so much variety that anything I might dislike about that was in the first part of the dev blog might be negated just by these. I mean, look at these. Boiling Blood. For every unoccupied position filled in the allied battle group, the minion will receive armor, resistance, attack, dread, evasion, and accuracy. I love that idea. It makes it sound like you could try to make like a 2-team group of tanks or something similar to that. Orb of Negation. Minion becomes immune to debuffs. Imagine that on a Dark Knight. He's already immune to crits. Now he's immune to debuffs too? That would be insane. I love that idea. Acid Gland. And now, obviously, I can only base it on, I know, first thing you're going to say, a knight that's immune to debuffs and crits sounds a little bit OP. I mean, he doesn't do that much damage, and by himself, his armor can easily be overcome by just pure attacks on the enemy side. So, I don't think it's going to make it that much easier. That said, I'm hoping there's going to be some changes to the enemies as well, and don't forget there are 2 more segments coming to the game that are probably going to have much stronger enemies. Acid Gland looks pretty awesome. When an attack is successful, the minion gains a chance to strip the target of all armor and resistance until the end of the battle. Single target attacks 33%. That could be amazing. Imagine that with, let's say, Smite the Show-Offs with the skeleton on a berserker who has like 3 stacks of his frenzy. What was it, like 5 attacks on him with 33% chance to strip all the armor and resistance? Not that berserkers come with much anyway, but still, I love that idea. I love this whole concept of new items spicing things up a bit. If there's a way to make some of these items, that would be great. Right now, the ones that you can make, they're just small stat changes. I'd love to see like a combination of different parts being able to be used to make some of these. Obviously, some of them, like the Orb of Negation, probably shouldn't be makeable. It seems a little bit like it might be a little too powerful. Or, on the other hand, with the inability to combine parts and make your own legendaries, if you had to have 2 legendaries of a relatively hard-to-find type, maybe you could make that work. Maybe. Like I said, it's a little too early to tell. This is just the, the dev blog. We haven't seen it in-game yet. Moreover, in order to diversify playthroughs a bit more, I suppose, we've added unique items for each type of minion. So, for example, the Burning Skull here for Liches only reduces the damage the Lich deals to his allies by 50%. That's pretty cool. Arming mechanism for the zombie. I like the sound of this one. At the start of each turn, the zombie receives accuracy and 20% damage, stacks up to 10 times, and it's removed if the zombie changes position. That's really cool. Imagine if there was another item that makes it so they can't be knocked into different positions. I'm just spitballing here, but I'm trying to think of cool ways to use these. And that's something I really like about games like this, about these games with roguelike elements. Making the game hard shouldn't be the point. The game should always, of course, start off with that certain level of difficulty. In fact, I really like how it is right now, where each progressive area has like a really easy battle to start with, just so you can get a taste of what's to come. And then you start going into the regular battles, difficulty starts ramping up a bit. But by that time, you should have a couple of level ups, you should have a couple of items that make sure that you're, if you've been playing competently, you're well equipped for those battles. So being able to make it so that by the time you're at the end of the run, you have almost this super cheesy group of effects and abilities together. I love that. That's something I really like about these roguelikes and how you get stronger over time. So I'm hoping that this is kind of veering into that territory. The way you get items didn't change. 10 basic items can still be made in the alchemy. Okay. And the player can receive more powerful items as a reward for victory in battle or for map events. Okay. So that does make sense to me. You wouldn't want to give, immunity to debuffs away. I do hope there's other ways to maybe get those later, but then again, there is a building that can help you get those as well. I'm hoping these items will be available in that building, in the Dead Lake. Artifacts. By the end of the 3rd floor, players tend to accumulate a significant number of artifacts that they don't end up using. In the near future, we'll introduce the ability to process them into experience. Okay, that's pretty nice. I like that idea. Again, one of the problems with an economy-based game is that if some items aren't useful enough, they kind of just fall out of the economy and you just take up inventory. So having a way to use those items is definitely cool. Whether it be experience, mana, I just like the idea that you can turn them into something. And and if I remember correctly, they do plan on making items usable that way too. So being able to do that with artifacts, pretty nice. Talents, new mechanics, spell power. Affects spells. I can use words. Iratus uses in battle, increases damage, reduce cost, enhance effect, etc. All that good stuff. You know what enhanced means. Thus, the participation of the Necromancer in battle will be even more noticeable, with several new strategies based on the spell power. This is pretty neat. Sorrow can be increased as far as stress damage dealt based on how much spell power you put into it. Love it. Perfect idea. Make the Necromancer useful. Make the idea of buffing up the Necromancer as maybe its own viable branch of strategy. As far as right now, you get the talent points anyway. You have to spend them. You can spend them on passives if you want. You can spend them on the same 3 spells that you're going to use every run if you're me. So having a way to branch that out even more, I think, is beautiful. The talents tree has been reworked. We tried to make the unpopular spells more useful and added new ones that affect spell power and enhance the effects of distillation and calcination. For example, Necromancer Power. From distillation, minions recover additional vigor. Again, I'm not big on the whole recover vigor from distillation thing, but I want to see it actually in action before I make a final judgment on that. However, changes to the talent tree sounds great. I like it. Let's do it. Game difficulty dynamics. We considered it necessary to more clearly draw the line between levels of difficulty and make them more honest with the player. With each difficulty level, we plan on making the game harder by increasing the complexity of the economy. Change cemetery building effects and spell power, tricky enemy battle formations, and new boss abilities rather than an increase in enemy stats as it's done now. Yes! Yes, they get it. Thank you, Unfrozen. I love this. This is beautiful. This is perfect. I hate games that decide they want to increase difficulty, and the only way they can think of how to do it is to make spongier sponges and brickier bricks. You know what I mean. Higher numbers, higher damage, higher health. It just makes the game take longer, and a longer game is not necessarily a more fun game. So finding anything that does not include just increasing enemy stats to make the game harder and more interesting is a 10 in my book, and I really look forward to seeing more about how they're going to do this moving forward. Whether it just be through complexity of enemies or by increasing the complexity of the economy, like I said. Maybe buildings, instead of just requiring a single minion to build, they can require multiple minions, or minions in certain items, or minions of a certain level even. Yeah, lots of possibilities here, and I love that they're open to it. Checkpoints. For players who wish the game to be less stressful on the difficulties Cakewalk and More Pain, will add checkpoints at the beginning of the floor as an option. They have that in bold. As an option. So your progress is more secure while you concentrate on learning the game at your own pace. This function can be used at the player's own choice when creating a new game. You can select this modifier. If you lose, you'll return to the first battle on the floor with the experience of past mistakes to lead your army to victory. As an option, this is awesome. I don't know why they didn't add it to Good Always Wins as well. I would say just keep it off of Eternal Harvest, because that kind of ruins the whole idea of you have to beat the whole thing to make it harder next time. I don't know why it's not on Good Always Wins, but okay. I like the idea of it as an option, though. The fact that it's not required, maybe they could have made it required on Cakewalk, but why? Cool little addition. Critical hits. We received a lot of negative feedback about enemy critical hits, breaking tactical compositions with their unpredictability. It is a little bit annoying. Of course, the gameplay should not be absolutely deterministic, but at the same time, the player should be able to build a reliable strategy and not depend on luck so much. Agreed, 100%. Unless you're building a strategy that purposely relies on luck, like a low accuracy team, for example. Yeah, that makes sense. Consequently, blocks and wards now prevent critical hits. I like it. Cool. I'm not against it. I think that's a good idea. It does make blocks and wards far more useful, whereas before they were kind of like, okay, they stretch the battle out a little bit longer, but if the enemy gets some lucky crits, it's like, who cares? And that really, this actually ups their importance by quite a lot, I think. No more sacrifices to the RNG. Now everything is under your control as you requested. I mean, it's not that big of a change, but okay, Unfrozen, I get it. There must have been a lot of people complaining about it for them to be this certain that it has been a major change. Finally, it will be possible to prevent the deadly attacks of the scout and no longer be afraid of unpredictable losses in your favorite squad. But, okay, this is one I am missing. The scout. Deadly attacks. Yeah, the one where she does this for a little while, and then she does 300% damage, and someone almost definitely dies. You get rid of the stance, or you bring a banshee. I don't know if I get this one as much. Blocks and wards preventing critical hits totally makes sense. Like it. Good change to it. Makes them more valuable. Hopefully it works like that on the enemy side too. I'm assuming it does, because it makes it better for them, which makes it, a balance changed. Balance to both sides. But, I must be missing something. I'll probably have to go into the community hub and see what they are complaining about as far as the scout, because I'm not seeing the problem there. Yeah, maybe it's the same with the headsman, where they can pull you forward and the attack hits, they're automatically dead. But again, it's still the same. If you prepared for it, if you saw ahead and saw there was a headsman there, or saw there was a scout there, and you brought a banshee, or a mummy, or a properly upgraded specter, or wraith, excuse me, it's conquerable. So I'm not sure what that complaint is. Ah, well. Still think it's probably... I'm sure they thought of something interesting to be able to block that. Like a certain type of attack blocks it or something. But I didn't see that as a big problem before. But again, eh. Cemetery. Many players complained about the useless waste of minions and resources and the tediously large amount of routine clicks for managing the cemetery. Therefore, we decided to kill 2 hunkies with 1 stone. Eh. And now, when constructing the building as before, the architect's souls are spent, and the minion is put into the building forever and works there. I assume that is the same with upgrading them, judging from the look of the Iratus statue here. Okay, so that strongly reduces the requirements in the economy for buildings. Not sure. I guess with the other ways they're reducing the economy with parts, that frees up those parts to be used in minions, and those minions can now be more reliably used for battle, since they don't have to be reused for the building economy. So I guess that's a good thing. Maybe, if that's... I mean, that does seem to be what they're going for, streamlining the economy. So, totally. I don't know if I'm going to like this one. I think I am. I think this one I will like. I think this will be a good change. I'm just not sure. I'll have to see this one in-game to really tell. I think it really just depends on how much the rest of the economy has changed in comparison. I think as long as we... Well, I'll come to that in a little bit here. The Humanarium. All this time, the human aureus has been more of a collection item than a functional source of information. Now, when all the enemy abilities are ready and approved, we'll add their descriptions to the human aureus, thus making it quite useful for any shrewd tactician. We know you were waiting for this. Smile. So you can see the Keymaster's abilities, for example, and anyone who's had their abilities approved. I mean, that's cool. It helps you learn about the enemies, and I like having information out there. I like the games that put that information out there without shoving it in your face like some of them do. Yeah. Small change. Cool one, though. Other changes, maps have become more diverse and similar paths will no longer be generated. Cool. Expected as a game, gets closer to coming out of early access, but cool. Because of the item rework, the reward system was redesigned. Effects of bonuses will now be more clear, and rewards will be more variable depending on the difficulty of the battle. I like it. Especially with the amount of items being added, obviously. We're going to see a more variety of rewards, but being able to have a better idea of what you get when going to a certain area could be very nice. We'll be adding an interface that displays improvements and bonuses from talents, artifacts, events on the map and cemetery, etc. Very nice. Something that, again, lets us know, or give us a better idea of how our abilities and artifacts and everything are being used as we move forward would be great. Just to kind of get an idea of... It helps not with the, maybe necessarily with the run that you're doing, but for planning future runs as well. So, again, more information is a good thing. I'm always for it, for the most part. Unless it's hidden for some specific gameplay reason, but here I don't see why that would be. At least, the only time I would see that being a gameplay reason is, for example, the Keymaster. If you're in battle with him, not knowing what his abilities are ahead of time is cool. That's why you have to gather the human aureus log for him before you can get that information. So, yeah, you can get the information afterwards. I think that's neat. I think that's great. Thanks again for being with us. Feedback and support will be the main source of strength and inspiration. Remind you that in the first half of February, they're going to launch the open beta. Okay, so it's first half of February, so it's coming very soon. And I hope to see some of it, and play some of it, and maybe bring you some of it. We'll see. Stay tuned and don't miss the news. Also waiting for you in the Discord. If you want to go, well, there's a link for it. You can find it in Steam. If you don't have the game on Steam, just go to the community tab, and it's pretty easy to find. Anyway, very exciting. I think easily the part that I'm most excited about is the new items, especially since just from the 3 that they've shown here, there's going to be a humongous variety of what these items bring, as opposed to what the current few have right now, which are just stat changes. And stat changes are not that exciting. I mean, they're good, but they're not, they're nothing that's going to make you go, wow, this blew everything out of the water. I have now a brand new type of minion that I didn't have 5 minutes ago. No, it's just, hey, we're a little bit better now, which is great. Getting a little bit better every day is kind of the point, but it's not a game changer. These look like game changers, and I like that. I like that a lot. Still a little bit iffy on being able to restore vigor between battles. I don't think I like... I mean, between battles as in, when a team has just come out of a battle, you can restore their vigor right away and then send them into the next one. That's what I mean. The Mortuary, of course, already allows you to restore minions to full health, but only after you've won a different battle. That, I think, is a great way to do it, because it forces you to move your minions around and, use at least 2 teams that way. With this, it really feels like you could do a 1 team all the way through strategy, which I'm sure you can already. In fact, I've seen it happen before, where you just have 1 team and you take them through the entire game and you just steamroll everything. But I don't think encouraging that play style is necessarily the best move, but I could be wrong. Again, it really just depends on what percentages of the restored vigor are going to be. If it maxes out at like 50%, then that could be fine, as long as the legendary items are as rare as they are making it sound like they will be. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing this new update. Let me know in the comments section if you are as well as let me know which of these changes are most exciting to you. Is it the new items, which seems like it would be the relatively obvious choice maybe? Is it maybe the new necromancy powers, making their abilities a little bit stronger? What about the new upgrade system for minions? Is that going to make the game better? That's what the comments down there are for. feel free to go ahead and just give me the word. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video on the updates to Iratus, Lord of the Dead. I'm looking forward to seeing them. I hope you are too. And I will see you if you go ahead and like and subscribe this video. Maybe I can see you in the next one.